This week on ANN, Seventh-day Adventist church leaders in Côte d'Ivoire host a peace summit in the aftermath of a recent terrorist attack.
An Adventist hospital in Haiti celebrates its 35th anniversary and opens a state-of-the-art facility.
And church leaders from the denomination's Euro-Asia region participate in an international summit to address the spread of HIV and AIDS.
These stories and more coming up.
This is ANN, a service of the Seventh-day Adventist World Church.
Thanks so much for joining us this week.
First in the news, in light of a recent terrorist attack in the West African nation of Côte d'Ivoire, religious leaders are calling for a unified response to violence. The Seventh-day Adventist Church in the West Central Africa region held a summit on March 18, 5 days after the massacre at a nearby seaside resort of Grand Bassam. 19 people were killed and 23 were wounded when 3 gunmen stormed the L'Étoile du Sud hotel. Adventist leaders invited representatives from many different faith communities to the church's local headquarters in the city of Abidjan to discuss ways residents of Côte d'Ivoire can reject intolerance and violence. In addition to welcoming representatives from many different Protestant groups, along with Roman Catholics, Muslims, and Buddhists, Eli Wick-Dido, president of the Adventist Church in West Central Africa, affirmed the church's commitment to building a culture of peace and tolerance.
During the inauguration of a state-of-the-art surgical suite, a new laboratory, and the installation of a private multi-med clinic, an Adventist hospital in Haiti last week celebrated 35 years of providing health care services. The event drew top officials from the Haitian government, Loma Linda University Health, Adventist Health International, and Florida Hospital, as well as local surgeons and community members. The hospital's new surgical suite includes 3 fully equipped operating rooms with an inline central oxygen system and a new modern laboratory. Many of the attendees were witnesses to the hospital's humble beginnings back in the early 1980s. The hospital's administrator, Edward Martin, said, quote, "The past 35 years of Hospital Adventiste de Haiti's existence has not been a sprint, but a marathon, and I'm here to tell you that through it all, she is still standing." During the ceremony, Haiti's First Lady, Jeannette Michaud-Privé, who is also an anesthesiologist, reflected on the time she worked at the hospital as a doctor in the emergency room services. First Lady Privé said, quote, "I know that it has not been easy during the more than 30 years here, but thank you for providing quality services in Carrefour and at the national level." Leaders also acknowledged that while many community members were happy to witness the expansion, they continue to view the hospital as a symbol of hope and life.
Leaders from the Seventh-day Adventist Church in Euro-Asia last month discussed ways to limit the spread of HIV and AIDS during the 5th Eastern Europe and Central Asia AIDS Conference. The church's representatives included the region's Director of Biblical Research Institute, Evgeny Zaitsev, and the Director of Health Ministries, Nadezhda Ivanova. The leaders were among the nearly 2,500 delegates from Christian, Muslim, and Jewish faith communities to help create a comprehensive response to the HIV and AIDS epidemic. The leaders in attendance represented 79 countries from around the world. The conference was held in Moscow and organized by the Russian Federal Service for Surveillance on Consumer Rights Protection and Human Well-Being, in addition to the joint United Nations program on HIV and AIDS. With the United Nations goal of eradicating the AIDS epidemic by 2030, attendees of the conference concentrated on exchanging knowledge among scientists, experts, community workers, and healthcare providers to develop best practices and strategies to fight HIV and AIDS.
Thanks to the funding from a prominent biomedical research institute in the United States, researchers from Loma Linda University Health have the opportunity to find solutions to improving the care of a baby from 5 months before birth to a month after its birth. Loma Linda University Health sent this report.
So whatever impact you have in utero can not only impact your children, also can impact grandchildren.
On March 29, a press conference was held at Loma Linda University Health to announce the awarding of a grant from the National Institute of Child Health and Human Development. The program project grant totals $6.3 million over 5 years of research.
This large grant is a program project grant, really provide a nucleus, a base for a group of scientists to work together.
The researchers' findings indicate that chronic diseases developed later in life are linked to fetal and early child development. Over the next 5 years, this PPG will allow the researchers to further understand the molecular and epigenetic mechanisms by which gestation restriction of oxygen impacts the mother, the fetus, and developmental programming of health and diseases later in life.
The idea of this grant, we talk about developmental plasticity. One of the things that's really fascinating is that somehow the mom is having a conversation with the fetus about the conditions in the world the fetus is about to enter. Is it a hypoxic world? Is it a hot world? Is it a food scarce world? What's going on? So all these things create a very, very difficult environment for the development of the fetus. So we're all looking at different ways that these kinds of stresses produce adverse outcomes. Now, not outcomes just in the fetus, but outcomes in these fetuses when they become adults in their 30s and 40s.
These studies at the Center for Perinatal Biology at Loma Linda University Health have been continuously funded for the past 20 years by the National Institutes of Health. The funding of the next 5 years has brought excitement for the entire research team.
You're excited, you're pleased, it's a lot of work, and it's a collaborative effort. We're really enthused about the work that we're doing and the potential impact that it could have down the road.
Last week, we reported on the Adventist Development and Relief Agency in Zimbabwe's response to the severe drought throughout the southern region of the continent of Africa that has left millions of people food insecure. According to ADRA, it is estimated that 40 million rural people and 9 million poor urban people who live in drought-affected areas could be exposed, and an estimated 14 million people in the region are already food insecure. Various ADRA offices throughout the southern region of Africa have partnered with numerous organizations to provide food to vulnerable families. In Madagascar, ADRA workers have coordinated with the United States Agency for International Development to relocate more than 350 metric tons, or 383 U.S. tons, of emergency food supplies to 13 communes across the affected southern part of the country. With the assistance of the World Food Program, ADRA Malawi is providing relief to more than 30,000 households in 2 southern cities in Malawi. With support from the Zambian government through the National Disaster Management and Mitigation Unit, ADRA Zambia distributed 234 metric tons, or 258 U.S. tons, of maize to 4,680 households. ADRA Swaziland is in discussions with the National Disaster Management Agency to distribute government-purchased food to approximately 18,000 households in 2 of Swaziland's regions. In Somalia, the local ADRA office has implemented its initial response, which includes providing emergency water trucking in the nation's Puntland state through May. And in Ethiopia, ADRA secured funding to begin a water, sanitation, and hygiene response in the Kalafo region. The agency is also working with the Global ADRA Network to create a wider response within the country.
Student filmmakers from 7 colleges and 2 high schools recently had the opportunity to showcase their work at an annual film festival organized by the Seventh-day Adventist Church in North America. More than 100 people attended the 15th Annual Sunscreen Festival, which was held in the U.S. state of Virginia. Attendees were able to watch student film projects from La Sierra University, Walla Walla University, Pacific Union College, Southern Adventist University, Andrews University, Brigham Young University, Spencerville Adventist Academy, and Georgia Cumberland Academy. More than 50 films were submitted to the festival. 14 of the 39 that were screened during the Sunscreens competition were given the festival's Sunny Awards based on results from a panel of judges. The films that won the most awards were The Exquisite Outdoors, which won 3 Sunnies, while the films Marion Montgomery and Hamilton County K-9 each won 2 awards.
Coming up, learn about one of the Seventh-day Adventist Church's largest youth congresses in Germany.
But up next, members in Egypt celebrate the opening of a new structure, which replaces an Adventist church that was destroyed by a mob.
May I work in with you, young fella?
Go for it.
That's the way you do it. Gotta put a little weight on it. But I'll put it back up here for you.
Welcome back.
And now we have more news from our global church community.
Leaders and members of the Seventh-day Adventist Church in Egypt last month celebrated the opening of a new building which will replace an Adventist church structure in the city of Asyut that was destroyed in 2013 when a mob burned down the building and attempted to kill its pastor. During the inauguration ceremony on March 19, government leaders who helped to rebuild the church took the time to congratulate the church's members. Also during the ceremony, a representative of Al-Azhar, a respected Islamic legal institute, gave a speech underscoring the importance of unity between Christians and Muslims in Egypt. Back in August 14, 2013, local church members were left in shock when a mob broke into the church in Asyut and attempted to kill the pastor and his wife. The attack came amid widespread riots following the toppling of the country's president in mass protests. The pastor and his wife hid in the building's upstairs apartment and were not found by the attackers who set the church on fire. The couple's Muslim neighbors rescued them from the burning building. Johnny Nasrallah, son of the former pastor who was rescued from the attack, spoke about the significance of the new structure. He said, quote, "The church was destroyed by hatred, but reopened by love. Hope has been restored in the hearts of people."
The Seventh-day Adventist Church in Germany recently concluded its largest youth congress with nearly 4,000 youth and church members in attendance. During the 5-day congress, Adventist youth had a chance to participate in 40 workshops that covered numerous topics ranging from evolution, human sexuality, and war in the Old Testament. The Congress was held in the city of Offenburg and was organized by local leaders of the Adventist Church in Baden-Württemberg. Attendees also had a chance to hear presentations from popular Adventist speakers David Asherick and Ty Gibson. Organizers of the conference hoped the young people in attendance were encouraged to live their faith in their daily lives while finding ways to leave a positive influence in their society.
Last month, we reported on a group of students from the Andrews University Seminary in the U.S. state of Michigan who were preparing to visit Cuba to conduct an evangelistic campaign. Well, 2 weeks ago, the students returned from their 4th consecutive mission trip to the Caribbean island nation. As a result of their campaign, more than 250 people were baptized in Santiago de Cuba, which is the nation's 2nd largest city. Andrews University sent this report.
March 2016 was a historical month for Cuba and its people. It wasn't only a special time for politics and international relations, but also because in the same place where the Castro brothers started their communist revolution, a new revolution of hope began. Known as the Land of the Sunrise, Santiago de Cuba, the 2nd largest city in the country, hosted a group of 31 students and professors from Andrews University for 10 days who came to work with the local people in an evangelistic campaign.
I expected it's similar to other Hispanic cultures I've been in, but the biggest thing is just the people's hearts are open to hear the gospel.
I've been totally blessed to be here. It's really humbling to come to a place like this where they have so little and just see how happy they are and content, and just how active they are working for God.
Dwight Nelson preached for more than 2,000 people in Santiago's biggest auditorium.
Hermanos y hermanas, I want you to notice, please, we are now...
Now Cuba's opening up, and we've had free access to the city. We're walking all over the town. People are inviting us into their homes. But it's humbling because they are so deeply passionate about sharing the gospel of Christ. And for them to invite us from Andrews to come, I mean, yeah, it's just been a wonderful experience.
The group of missionaries also had the opportunity to preach and to live and learn with the local people during this project.
Yo creo que es una impresión muy bonita porque las personas, por lo menos alrededor de las iglesias, vieron y conocieron y entendieron realmente qué cosa es el Evangelio.
Las iglesias han estado llenas todo el tiempo, la comunidad los ha recibido con mucha alegría.
Y yo los veo tan sociables, tan amables, que se asemejan a Jesucristo.
As a result of this effort, more than 277 people were baptized on the last Sabbath of the trip. But the real impact of this mission will only be known in heaven.
Cuando pienso en los niños, y creo que ya me voy a poner a llorar, y al pensar que me voy a ir de Cuba y que los voy a dejar, se me parte el alma.
Ainda mais que eu tenho visitado algumas delas e tenho visto as circunstâncias que elas vivem, eu poderia muito bem dizer, olha, meu sonho para elas é que elas tivessem um lugar melhor para morar, com condições bem melhores, mas eu vejo que de certa forma elas estão felizes onde elas estão, então meu desejo mesmo, eu ia ficar muito feliz se eu pudesse encontrar com elas no céu.
Preparations for the next series are already in progress. The next city to receive the delegation from Andrews University will be the city of Holguín.
Oh, sí, le esperamos con los brazos abiertos, porque el Evangelio tiene que predicarse pronto y ustedes están siendo parte de ese gran ministerio de llamado que Dios nos hace.
Y Dios está usando este mecanismo, este instrumento, para que el Evangelio en Cuba pueda caminar con rapidez.
Andrews, Jehová te bendiga y te guarde y tengan éxito en ese empeño de querer salvar.
So I'm of hope. The best days for the church in Cuba are ahead.
And finally, in the news this week, every year, tens of thousands of runners are drawn to the nation of South Africa to participate in a world-renowned marathon. Since the Old Mutual Two Oceans Marathon usually falls on a Saturday, organizers have made accommodations for Sabbath observers over the past 2 decades for those who wish to participate in the race. Sid Media has more.
Long considered one of the world's most beautiful marathons, the Old Mutual Two Oceans race spans across Cape Town and touches both the Atlantic and the Indian Oceans. Starting in 1970 with 26 runners, the marathon now tracks over 30,000 participants from all over the world. Starting in 1990, an Adventist pastor by the name of Kevin Rochford approached the Two Oceans Committee with the proposal for a special Friday run to accommodate those whose religious beliefs prevented them from running on Saturday. On April 13, runners lined up for the Two Oceans' first Friday race, and thus a tradition was started. One of this year's racers, Pastor Eric Webster, had been organizing the Friday run since 1991. After stepping down 3 years ago at the age of 85, Webster has slowed down a bit, but still continues to run the marathon each year.
Well, I must recognize that it was slowed, 3 hours 50 minutes for 21 kilometers, but at my age, 88 and a half, I'm happy. I'm thankful to God, thankful to the Lord for the ability to do it, and I just enjoyed being out with the other runners, the Friday runners who choose to run on Friday and not on the Sabbath. So it was a good experience for me.
This year, about 50 runners lined up to run the race on Good Friday. While some of the racers faced some physical difficulties, most still came out to give everything they have and all the glory to God.
I am so happy. This is the first sub-2 that I got. It's my number 7 run, so it's the best number to get my sub-2, and all glory to God.
I felt very comfortable this whole race. I did not walk once. And I was repeating in my mind Philippians 4 verse 13, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me.
Coming up, learn how to leave different types of reactions on your friends' Facebook posts.
But up next, learn how a mother's diet can affect future generations.
My brother's unexpected death shocked me into changing my life. A friend of mine said, why don't you do a triathlon? So I swam and rode and ran until I discovered life is more than just human strength. I race because my health matters. I believe because my faith matters. I'm Ed, I'm a Christian. I am an Ironman, and I've discovered my whole life matters.
Welcome back. Did you know what a woman chooses to eat while she's pregnant not only affects her child, but also her grandchildren? Learn more in this week's episode of Live It.
What if I told you that 1 out of every 5 pregnant women in the United States goes to bed hungry? Now, what if I told you that because they went to bed hungry, their babies are now prone to have a chronic disease as an adult? And not only that, but their grandchildren as well. This unfortunate fact is a huge problem.
On the other side of the spectrum, 1 out of every 3 pregnant women is overweight. This again has the same negative effect. Their children and their grandchildren will most likely have a chronic disease.
Oh no! Dr. Lawrence D. Longo of Loma Linda University Health is one of the world's most respected specialists in developmental physiology.
His research on maternal health has been funded by the National Institutes of Health for the last 50 years.
Today, we all know that smoking while pregnant has a negative effect on the child. Well, we can thank Dr. Longo for that. His most recent research has been focused on nutrition in pregnant women.
It's a very sobering reality to think in terms of how something that happened during one pregnancy can have effects throughout several generations. One finds a host of diseases related to the cardiovascular system, hypertension, heart attacks, strokes, to aspects of metabolism, type 2 diabetes, and now the whole panoply of neuropsychiatric disorders which are showing up.
Dr. Longo and his team of researchers have studied how protein deprivation during the course of gestation will have these effects on one's health.
I think that as a society, we should give more attention to pregnancy and early life and development.
Now that we know what the consequences can be as our children become adults, we can't stress the health advice enough.
Eat a balanced diet with enough protein and nutrients. Take a prenatal vitamin every day with folic acid and DHA. And if you're overweight, try as hard as you can to get a healthy weight by the time you conceive.
To quote one of my friends at the National Institutes of Health, every pregnant uterus is a center for excellence.
There is your tip for the day on how you can live healthier longer.
To learn more about Live It, Loma Linda University Health's online health show, and to watch previous episodes, visit liveitlomalinda.org.
For this week's social media report, Angela Taipei discusses how you can respond to Facebook posts with various emotions, including love, awe, and laughter.
Hopefully you've already noticed this update, and by now it barely even feels new. But recently, Facebook changed its like button to reaction buttons after many years of Facebook users calling for a dislike button. The issue was usually one of expressing sympathy or compassion to a Facebook post that expressed grief or even a struggle. It felt unnatural for many to click like when what users were truly expressing was a completely different emotion of support. These reaction buttons have opened a whole new world of expression on Facebook at just the click of a button. Now you're able to interact quickly to post in a variety of emotions, which include like, love, laughter, awe, sadness, and anger. You can access these reactions on a desktop by hovering over the like button without clicking, or on a mobile device by holding down the like button. When you're posting on Facebook, this adds a whole new layer of how you choose what you share. Take a second to consider the emotional response of your audience. How are you hoping they'll react to the comment or the resource that you're sharing with them? If you're sharing an article to make people laugh and the majority of reactions are sadness, you might need to reevaluate how well you achieved your goal. Now, if you follow the Adventist Church or Adventist News Network on Facebook, We want to know what emotional response you have to the stories that we share. Some might amaze you, while others might make you angry, and even others might make you sad. But we would love to get that feedback from you at home. And don't forget that we love reading comments, so please interact with us like that. Don't just like us, react to us, and interact with us.
And finally, for today's program, let's turn to David Trim for a look at Adventist history. This week, learn when Seventh-day Adventist leaders from all parts of Canada met for the first time.
Throughout the whole of this week in Adventist history and beyond, April 3 through 12 in 1934, church workers from across the Canadian Union Conference met in Oshawa, Ontario. The Union had only been created 2 years earlier by the merger of the Eastern Canadian and Western Canadian Unions, and this was the first ever meeting of pastors and other church workers from the whole of Canada. On April 4, 1907, the country of Bolivia was separated from the Chile-Bolivian mission. All of the existing 290 members in that mission lived in Chile. The newly constituted Bolivian mission had just 2 members, both of them foreign missionaries, in a population of 2 million people. Today, Bolivia's total population is over 10 million, and over 100,000 of them are Seventh-day Adventists. 4 years and a day earlier, on April 3, 1903, the Secretary of the General Conference, William A. Spicer, made an appeal to the 1903 General Conference session to do more in China, where the first Adventist minister, John Anderson, had only arrived the year before. Spicer shared with the session Anderson's idea that every conference in America send one of its laborers to enter that great land. Spicer continued, "It may be thought too much and that it is not a practical suggestion, but surely it would not be too much for the 400 million people of China. These 50 years we have heard of the woes and sorrows of China, but during these 50 years we have never told suffering China of the glorious message of salvation that God has given to us." Today, this church is growing in the People's Republic of China, but its more than 1 billion people still pose a significant challenge to the Seventh-day Adventist Church's task of reaching the world. That was this week in Adventist history.
Thanks for watching ANN. Join us next week for more news from the headquarters of the Seventh-day Adventist Church.
In the meantime, join our global conversation on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You can connect with Adventists worldwide through more stories, photos, and videos. Visit Facebook/Adventist News, Twitter @Adventist Church, and Instagram @Adventist Church.
Our good news for this week comes from the book of Proverbs, chapter 16 and verse 3. The passage says, "Commit your actions to the Lord, and your plans will succeed."
That's our program for this week. And remember, you can always visit news.adventist.org for daily news and videos. Until next time, God bless.
Take care.